Hi everyone, we're going to be doing addition and subtraction with other bases, but we won't be using our traditional dots and boxes that we have been in the past month. We're going to do this the same way you would your standard addition and subtraction stacking vertically, but we do have to make some adjustments. So let's see what that looks like. The instructions for adding in base B feel similar to base 10, but we have to make adjustments for the base. So we're going to rewrite the addition vertically. So if we're taking the number 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 in base 2, and we're going to be adding 1, 0, 1, 0, 1 in base 2, we're given the instructions to rewrite the addition vertically, which I just did. And then we're going to start in the ones place as usual. That's here. And we're going to find the sum, but we have to find the sum that's represented in base B. And what that means is in base 2. Now in base 2, I can only use the numbers 0 and 1 because anytime I have 2 or more, that is actually represented in the next box over if I was considering boxes. Now remember, if you're looking at any of your bases, we always start out with 1 and then base and then that base squared and then that base to the third and then that base to the fourth, and so on. If I'm doing base 2, that means I have 1, base is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 2 is 16, or 2 squared, 2 third to the fourth, and so on. So if I have the number 2, it actually needs to go into the second place, not the first originally. So if the sum is larger than base B, if it's larger than 2, I carry over to the B1 place value. And I think that it should actually say, I copied these instructions from our book, but I do believe that it should actually say if the sum is equal to the value of the base or more, then we should carry over. It's not just if it's larger because you still don't write 2. Okay? Then we're going to repeat. So let's do this for the first. We have 1 plus 1 is 2. However, I can't write 2 because in base 2, that violates the rule. I can only use zeros and ones. What I really need to do is carry over as many 2's as I can get and leave whatever's left over. So what I'm going to do is how many 2's can I get? This is 1. And then my remainder is what stays here. So that's a 0. That means that this 1 gets added to our next value column. Okay? So then I have 1 plus 1, which is 2, plus 0, which again, 2 plus 0 is 2, but I can't use a 2 here. I need to take away my base. That's one time it went into evenly, so I'm going to carry that 1, and then I'm going to do 2 minus 2 is 0. So now I have 2 plus 1, which is actually 3. I need to carry over my base of 2, so that's going to be a plus 1, and I drop down my remainder of 1. Now I have 2 plus 0, which is 2. Can't have 2, so I need to take away that base value, drop down my remainder, and carry over how many 2's I had. So again, I have 2 plus 1, which is 3. Take away my base, drop down my remainder of 1, and carry over my 1, which is a new column. So I have 1 plus 0 is 1. I can't take away 2, so I'm going to drop that down. This is actually the number 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0 in base 2. Okay, so the idea is using the base. I'm not carrying over a 1 because I have a 10 number. I'm carrying over 1 because that's how many 2's I could get out of it. How many 10's could I get out of it? How many 5's? It just depends on the base. So let's see that using base 6. I have to stack vertically 2, 4, 5 plus 3, 2, 5 And these are in base 6, which means the only numbers that I can have in each place are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 6 possible values, but 6 is not one of them. So anytime I have 6 or more, that needs to carry over to the next line. Okay, so here I have 5 plus 5. 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 is not one of my allowable values. I don't carry over a 1 and drop down a 0 because this is not base 10. What I need to do is I need to take away the base of 6 to find out what remains. And what remains here is 4. I need to account for this minusing of 6, meaning I'm moving it over to the next line, as plus 1. So this is actually 1 plus 4 plus 2. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7. That leaves me with 7. 7 is not an allowable value. It's not 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. What I need to do is I need to take away the 6 from my base to find out what remains. 7 minus 6 is 1, but then I also need to carry over the 1 for the 6. So then my next value is 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is 6. Now, 6 is not an allowable value. I need to take away the base value of 6 to find out what remains. I have 0 remainder, but I do have to carry over a 1, even though there was not a place for that. So that value is 1 plus 0, or 1, which is an allowable value. So I am left with 1, 0, 1, 4 in base 6. Okay. The whole idea is you need to figure out what remains when you take away the base value. So even though we are doing an addition problem, when you carry over, you are doing subtraction to figure out what you are dropping down, what you're left with. Let us think about that in terms of base 10 really quickly. If I was to add 1, 2, 3 plus 9, 9, 9 in base 10, I am doing 9 plus 3, which is 12. It's base 10, so I'm taking away 10. That leaves me with 2, and I'm adding 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 9 is 12. Taking away my base value of 10, dropping down the remainder, and carrying over the fact that I took away one group of 10. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 9 is 11. Taking away the 10 base, dropping down the remainder, and carrying over my 1. So that becomes 1, 1, 2, 2. So you're doing the same thing with base 10 whenever you are carrying over. It's just easier for you to drop down the remainder because you're so used to taking away 10. But what you need to do when you're taking away is take away the base. Subtracting in base B is similar to adding in that you have to think about your base when you're carrying over. You rewrite vertically. I'll put a 0 here just for placeholder. Then we're going to start in the ones place as usual. But we have to find the difference in base B. So if this is the number 2, I can only use the numbers 0 and 1. I cannot use 2 or higher. That needs to be adjusted when I'm doing my borrowing. Now, it says if the ones place in the minuend is smaller than the ones place in the subtrahend, then borrow from the place value to what? What is the minuend and what is the subtrahend? Well, when you're doing subtraction, 3 minus 1, the minuend is the first number, and the subtrahend is the second. So we are looking at if the larger value, if the top number is bigger If the top number is smaller than the bottom number, then you're going to have to borrow. That's standard subtraction talk. Let's look at this. 0 minus 0 is 0. Okay, so I'm going to give a little place breaking up so you can see each section that I'm doing. 0 minus 0 is 0. That's an allowable value. I have no issues. I'm good. 1 minus 1 is 0. That's an allowable value. I'm good. I cannot do 0 minus 1. I do not have enough in the minuend to subtract from. So what I need to do is I need to borrow. And a lot of you would probably go, oh, I'm going to make this a 0, and I'm going to make this a 1, and that's 10 minus 1, which is 9. That's a no-go. This is not base 10, this is base 2, which means I am not adding 10. I am adding 2. So I add 2, which is my base. 2 plus 0 is 2, so the new value here is actually 2. And I have 2 minus 1, which is 1. So my new number is 1, 0, 0, base 2. Okay. Trying again with a different base, we have 6, 0, 5, 3 in base 7, minus 3, 1, 2, 4, base 7. So remember, allowable values are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And when I am borrowing 7, not just carrying over a 1. So right off the bat, I cannot do 3 minus 4. That means I need to borrow from the 5. That drops down 1, but I am adding 7 here. 7 plus 3 is 10, and now I am doing 10 minus 4, which is 6. I can do 4 minus 2, which is 2, but I cannot do 0 minus 1, so I need to borrow from the 6, which drops down 1 to 5, and then I add 7. 7 plus 0 is 7, and 7 minus 1 is 6. 5 minus 3 is 2, and my result is 2, 6, 2, 6, base 7. Let's do one more for fun. Let's say I have the number 5, 0, 0, 0 in base 6 minus 1, 2, 4, 3 in base 6. Allowable values are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And when I borrow, I am borrowing 6. Okay, those are my rules I need to remember. Lining up, 5, 0, 0, 0, minus 1, 2, 4, 3. This is base 6. I cannot do 0 minus 3. So I need to borrow from the next column over. I can't do that because I can't borrow from a 0. I need to borrow from the next column over. I can't do that because I can't borrow 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow from my very far left column. That 5 is going to become a 4. And I'm going to be adding 6 here. That means my new number is 6. But I need to borrow from that 6. So that 6 actually becomes a 5. So that I can add 6 here. 6 plus 0 is 6, but I need to borrow from that. So this 6 actually becomes a 5, and I add 6 here. 6 plus 0 is 6. So now I can do my subtraction for each of these values. It's just like when you had to borrow in base 10, and it became 9s all the way, all across the board. It was all 5s because it's in base 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. 5 minus 4 is 1. 5 minus 2 is 3, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So my final result is 3, 3, 1, 3 in base 6.